Hello all, Stacy the Black Feather Intuitive. So excited to be tuning in for our new moon musings for March. And this new moon is happening March 21st and carrying us into the April new moon. So if you are old hat at this and you want to skip my intro on how it all works, go to the description below and click on the new moon musing and get started. If you are new here, let me tell you how it works. So here's how the new moon musings reading works. In the new moon, we have different cycles and phases of the moon. We have the new moon, the waxing crescent, the first quarter, waxing gibbous, full moon, waning gibbous, last quarter or third quarter, and the waning crescent. The first part of the new moon cycle is the waxing cycle. So we have waxing gibbous, waxing crescent. What does waxing mean? Waxing is the energy of at the new moon, we are deciding what we want to work on. And the waxing is putting the action into what we're trying to create, what we're trying to achieve, a project that we're trying to complete. And then the waning part of it comes after the full moon. So you have new moon to full moon, that is the waxing. And then the waning is the full moon to the next new moon. And it doesn't mean that there's no action involved in the waning. It just means you're more reflective about what's going on. You're paying more attention to what action was put in and is it working for us, and do we need to tweak the process as we are working to connect the dots and find the completion to that particular cycle. Each of these phases of the moon represents a different energy that each of us is experiencing in the collective as well as individually. So what you can do is watch the entire reading once all the way through to get the overarching energies for this particular new moon cycle. And then throughout the phases of each moon, you can come back and review each of those phases. Now, it's not an exact science. I read it as though we have basically three days, 2.5 to 4 days. So take the average in the middle, 3 days in each phase. But the moon is a bit temperamental. And so sometimes you can be in one phase and lasting a little longer in that phase. And maybe the next phase will be a little bit shorter. And, for your neighbor, it might be the exact opposite. So it's important for you to really tune in and recognize where you're at energetically when you're tapping into these. So check out the timestamps below when you're watching this reading anytime after you've taken in the full message. So for this new moon on March 21st, we are moving into a new moon in Aries, which means a lot of boldness, a lot of fiery energy, a lot of motivation to get things started. It's going to be a great month to dive on in that way. Any projects, any things that you've been thinking about or maybe putting off for a while because you just weren't sure if you had the right energy or the right flow, now is the time to dive on into that. Today I'm going to be pulling cards. Thought I'd have a little bit of fun since it's springtime. We can keep it light and fancy free. I thought I would just pull from the Villains Tarot deck. It happens to be a Disney deck. I think it's great that Disney is opening their minds to all sorts of fun things. So we'll get a little villains. And as I have done in the past, for each of the quarters, I'm also going to, or the sort of the compass points in the spread, I'm going to also pull an affirmation from the Moon Magic Oracle from Stacy DeMarco. So let's get started. The first card that I'm going to pull actually is our soul card for the month. And the soul card basically lets us know what the collective is working towards establishing, working towards moving into. So let's see what we got. Oh my God, I love it. We got the Fool card. So the Fool is the beginning of the hero or the heroine's journey. It is, in essence, springtime. It's the new seed planted, and you're like, okay, let's take on the adventure. Let's see what we have to sort of move forward into. So I feel like this month, this card coming through is really giving us the opportunity to recognize that the sky's the limit, that we only have limitations that we put on ourselves, and there's nothing else to consider. So if the sky is the limit, what would you like to do? What would you like to create? We are all co-creators in this life, and we need to, I want to say, take full responsibility for that. The new seed that gets planted in the earth doesn't blame the surroundings, doesn't blame the planter for its journey. It simply, grows and does its best to, fight in the environment or whatever it is to survive. It chooses to embrace life. And I feel like that's kind of the journey here, is what are you willing to fight for in order to be able to create it? And by fight, I don't mean like swords and knives and weaponry. I mean that inner drive within, the inner motivation. How motivated are you, and what are you willing to do to co-create and to manifest that life of your dreams? I'm really drawn here to this figure having the sort of the angel and the devil on either side of their shoulders. And so we know this as, the conscience. What I would like to sort of point out is that we deal with the shadow side of ourselves, as well as, I want to say, the light side of ourselves, or I'm going to say more awareness, right? More awareness, higher vibrational energy versus lower vibrational energy. So not good and bad, not good and evil, more of integration. And so this soul card, I feel, is also reflecting a particular integration that is occurring, that is occurring collectively, to understand that we need to maybe not have so much divisiveness. We need to sort of come together on things. It doesn't mean we all have to agree, but we need to not have that, the swords and the guns and the knives and the fighting. It's, I want to say, agree to disagree. And how do we find the middle, or how do we find the balance, or the adjustment, so that the good of all can be realized. So that feels very much like a soul card energy for this new moon on March 21st. So really exciting stuff. Okay, so now we are going to pull the actual new moon card, which, as I said before, is a new moon in Aries. And it's happening at 1:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think that's 10:24 Pacific, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see what we got here. Oh, interesting. King of Swords. So King of Swords has been coming up a lot this year in different spreads. So I feel like for us, for the new moon, the focus really needs to be on intelligent communication. Really not holding back from the truth, but understanding how that truth fits in to what you're trying to create, what you're trying to establish. I'm hearing that each of us is going to have our own little catharsis during this time. So I feel that there might be some emotional stuff that comes up, and it's how do you deal with it intelligently. So the swords is the realm of the mind, mental energy, communication, that type of thing. Cups is the sort of the realm of emotion, typically. But what I'm feeling here is there is going to be sort of a wave of emotion, and how do you take that emotion and make it work for you? How do you deal with it intelligently? So I feel that there's response versus reaction here. I also feel very much that in the new moon energy, when you are in the process of, sort of laying out what you're trying to create, establishing that and staying in that that particular momentum of the cycle, moving into the full moon, into that peak, you want to make sure that you're being smart about your choices and being smart about how you are interacting with others. So the catharsis piece. Often when we hear the word catharsis, we think release, we think growth, like shedding a bunch of stuff and growing into a new realization. I do feel that that is the case. And what I'm drawn to in the depiction of this card is all of the red and the orange and a little bit of the pink that's coming through. So we are dealing with the lower chakras. We're dealing with things that are happening in our physical, in the physical world, the rooting. How are we rooting? And actually, that is the theme for this month, I believe. No, the theme for this month is, that was last month in March. So actually, this being in the new moon being in that time, it makes a lot of sense. Recipe for rooting, grounding to the new earth energy. It's how do we do that intelligently? And so when we are going through a catharsis, we've been going through a catharsis for the last 3 years. This feels like on an individual level, it's the opportunity to really kind of say, I'm closing the door for good on a lot of these ways that I have been reacting, or these ways that I have been in a pattern and cycle that has kept me in lack, has kept me in scarcity, has kept me feeling unsafe and unsecure in the world. And I'm turning that on its head, and I'm bringing some intelligence to the approach. So there's really, I want to say, a lot of energy in the collective in the new moon around being able to navigate and to, I don't want to say take control necessarily, because it's not about taking control. It's more actually about like letting go and understanding I control nothing. And therefore, the only thing that I have power over, in essence, is my own reactions, my own responses, my own choices. And so I feel that there's a level of responsibility that we're all going to take as a result of this sort of emotional catharsis. It's recognizing, okay, I've purged it. I'm done with it. And now moving forward, I never have to go back to that again. There is a definite moving forward. And I think it's really important when we have our soul card, the Fool, that says, all right, let's create a new adventure. Let's have some fun with this. It's a blank slate. There's no expectation that I need to do it this way or that way or the other way. It simply is. So we'll pull an affirmation. And I decided to pull from the moon affirmations because sometimes I think it's cool. It's like a game to see if we're actually going to get like the new moon card on the new moon. And it doesn't always happen that way, but it's kind of fun to think that it could. Okay, so our affirmation, oh, very cool. Our affirmation, it's Waning Gibbous, so not quite the new moon. I gather more wisdom each day. Wow, this really ties in with King of Swords, because King of Swords is a card of deep wisdom, deep understanding, awareness of a lot of information that has been processed and put some beautiful structure around it. So I gather more wisdom each day. New moon energy is time to gather more wisdom around what you're trying to manifest. And gathering more wisdom means I'm letting go of a lot of stuff that isn't working for me any longer. I'm letting it go. There's wisdom in recognizing this is no longer serving me. This is no longer helping. Okay, now we're going into our Waxing Crescent. And Waxing Crescent is going to happen somewhere in and around March 24th. This is the card that's standing out to me. Oh, very cool. Okay, we've got Three of Coins. So Three of Coins or Three of Pentacles, it's a card of collaboration. And so I feel very much that when we're talking about this waxing crescent energy, again, still in the part of the cycle where we're active, we're moving forward, there's a lot of momentum towards our goals, this is going to be a period of time where you're going to notice a lot of teamwork. You're going to notice, geez, I can't get through this. I can't complete this step without talking to someone else. I need someone's help. I feel this is coming up because, if we think about sort of the Aries new moon and the springtime, again, I said, the seed doesn't blame anybody, but the seed does use what is in the environment around it and it adapts to it. So I feel that this is coming up to encourage everyone to interact a little bit more, to ask for help when you need it, to say, you know what? I can't do this alone, or maybe I can do it alone, but it's not going to be as much fun. And if there are if there are more people around to assist or to help, or there's more resource, maybe this will go faster. Maybe there's an element to what I'm creating or building that I haven't considered without someone else's eyes, needing another pair of eyes onto something. I'm just thinking about something that I did with the business and my team. I love them so much. They put up with a lot. Sometimes I just get these brainchilds and I don't think about all of the back ends. I'm like, okay, well, I fixed it here, so that's good. And they're like, well, there's a website that we need to fix it on. There's all your social media that we need to fix it on. So, give us a heads up before you do it. So I'm just thinking about this because this happened literally yesterday. So this is exactly a good message. This is what's going to be coming up around that time. As I said, March 24th, 25th, 26th, possibly even to the 27th, is don't forget to ask for help, and don't forget those who help you. This might be a really good time to, I also want to say, take the extra step to say thank you to those that, make your life work, or to those who make life worth living. Even if you're not in business or whatever, and you don't have a lot of people who are helping you out, and you're the chief cook and bottle washer of everything, why do you do what you do? Well, you do what you do because you enjoy the interaction with those that are around you, right? So feeling very much that that's kind of the energy, is really paying attention to, where do I need help? Things will go a lot better if I have, that extra assistance or that extra pair of eyes to look at what I'm doing. Or how can I acknowledge people who are helping me? How can I take that extra step? All right, now we are at the first quarter moon, and this is going to be on March 28th. And, as I'm doing this reading, because I always do things ahead of time to make sure that they're out on time for you guys, it always blows my mind. I wonder why, as a psychic, as an intuitive, as an oracle, as a channeler, the more and more that I get involved in this, the less and less I have a concept of time. And then I laugh at this because no wonder I'm always in different months, thinking about different months, different years, thinking ahead of things. So I'm laughing at this March 28th going, oh my God, we're already through, the third month of the year. But we're not quite yet. So spoiler alert, right? Okay, so first quarter, Two of Swords. So Two of Swords, I like to, not everybody reads it this way, but I like to read Two of Swords as a very intuitive card. It's an invitation. It's not about battle. Yes, there's a choice to be made. Yes, there's consideration around choices. But I like to see it more as a card of intuition, inviting you to not make decisions based on what you see, but more making decisions based on what you feel, what you receive, and then how you feel about what you receive from the divine. So feeling very much that this particular window, March 28th, 29th, 30th, going into the 31st, so the very end of March, I'm feeling that there's a collective decision that's going to be made. And I want to say this is global. I feel like there's some global energy around needing to make some decisions or some choices. I feel also some financial stuff that's coming up. Swords usually isn't financial, but it is legal, contracts and things of that nature. So definitely feeling some of that energy where there's going to be a collective decision. Now, is this going to be formal? No, we've never done anything formal, I think, as a global entity before. We're working towards that, but we're a far cry from it. But what I do feel is it's the collective energy. How am I making a decision? How am I feeling about these choices that are being made? And what energy am I putting out into the collective on an intuitive level to cast my vote, to be heard, to be seen, to contribute? So there's really a lot of energy. I want to say it's not about me, myself, and I. It's not about us as a country, whatever respective country you're from. We have so many borders and so many limitations, and we compartmentalize everything. This more, I feel, is me with the world, right? How do I fit in with the world? Two. So we can talk about divine masculine and divine feminine coming together here. We can talk about pairing, partnership, and union. That's kind of the energy I feel is how am I interacting in this relationship with my global community. So it's me and the global community and the I. So there's a lot of energy I feel going to be exerted, included, that is connected to what's going on with the world, because what's going on with the world affects us. I always talk about the proverbial pebble in the pond, and we know now in the age of communication that we're in, we know everything that's going on instantaneously. And so, we've got, we still have that war going on that affects us, whether we deal with it on a day-to-day basis here in North America or not, we still feel it. We still feel it. We still feel the pain of those who are suffering, those who are being disparaged, those who are being, tortured, killed, hurt, whatever, all of it. We feel it. And that's why a lot of us feel so heavy all the time. You have your ups, your up and your down days, and you wonder, well, everything's going on okay in my life. Like, I don't understand why there's all this fluctuation from an emotional perspective. And I want to say an energetic perspective. Actually, we feel it, and we are all one. So when something, when a hurt happens to one, we all feel it. And I'm not talking about empathy or, being an empath. This goes beyond that. This is being human and relating on a human level. Okay, our affirmation for this time is, I let go of the anxieties of others. Oh, interesting. It's a micromoon. Okay, so this actually does kind of tie in with the Two of Swords as well. It's, sort of making that decision from an intuitive level. In order to really tap in intuitively, anxiety stops the channel. Anxiety stops the flow of that information from coming through. So if you're letting go of the anxieties of the collective, instead putting in thoughts of power and support and comfort and, healing, helpfulness, healing, you're going to help the others whose anxiety is affecting you to dissipate. You're helping that anxiety to dissipate. So I let go of the anxieties of others. This could also say I help others in the collective by healing their anxieties. So definitely some work going on there, which I think is really, really important. Okay, so now we're going to our Waxing Gibbous, which is happening around March 31st. And this phase is going to bring us right into April. And here we go. We've got Queen of Coins. Oh, very cool. She's an interesting Queen of Coins. Okay, so Queen of Coins, Queen of Pentacles. Interesting that we've got a lot of red and green here again. So green is the sort of the alligator or the crocodile. She's wearing a red dress. She's got red hair. So this is a woman who feels secure, feels safe, feels stable, is very rooted and connected to the earth. This is a woman who, or I shouldn't say a woman, pick a gender. It doesn't matter. This is an energy. This is a person, an individual who isn't in a rush. They've done the work that they need to do to get where they're at. And they're happy to be generous in financial, as well as in health, as well as in spirit, as well as in, joy and love and laughter and all of those things. But they're also going to give you some structure around how you can make that work for you. So Queen of Coins, I feel very much this month is about empowering you to step more into how you can feel more safe and secure and supported. And how interesting, we were talking about that with King of Swords, and I think I brought it up in the Three of Coins as well. So, and when we are referring to the Fool's journey, you're creating something brand new. The Queen of Coins comes up and says, okay, you're doing it all. You don't need to rush. There's no rush going on here. And in fact, you're coming to me for some resource. I'm happy to give you the resources. And I'm also going to show you how you can make that resource work for you, or how you can create it for yourself, so that you don't always have to rely on somebody else in order to be able to do it. So that empowering energy, what's that saying? I feel like I say this every time I get in front of the camera these days, but it's you teach a person to fish, or sorry, you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. You teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. It's that concept. The Queen of Coins, she's saying, yes, you have everything at your fingertips. I'm also going to provide you some wisdom and some structure around how to not burn through this, or how to be able to make this last, and to recognize that there's no rush. Nature grows in its own way and pace, and each aspect of nature has its own timing, its own cycle. And humanity, no matter how hard we try and how smart we think we are, how clever we are, we don't really affect that. If we were to have a massive human extinction on this planet, Mother Nature would thrive. Mother Nature would take over and there would be no issue, right? I mean, there's just no issue. So it's about, I want to say, approaching your needs responsibly, approaching your needs without, I like to say, bulldozing through it, and rather kind of enjoying the journey of it, or being open to learning from someone who's got the wisdom, who's done the work. So a lot of that energy, when we are talking about our waxing gibbous, I feel like that's the energy that we're all going to be in, is it's all going to get done. Slow and steady wins the race. Be open in your life to mentors that are here to show you how their wisdom, and it's up to you whether you choose to act on the wisdom or not. But know that wisdom is accessible to you. So everyone needs to be a little more open to what other people have to say. Weigh in on it, feel into it, and see what it actually feels like for you. Okay, so now we are going into our, oh my God, we're already at our full moon. Well, that's kind of exciting. All right, so our full moon, and this is a pink moon. So I did a little bit of research and couldn't really find anything profound with the pink. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm just going to intuit it. And so I'm going to go with the color, because I'm all about the colors. I love the frequency of colors. So we've got the pink moon. Pink is connected to one half of the heart chakra. It's the unconditional love, self-care, self-compassion, self-forgiveness. Pink is, I want to say, the kind of energy when we're talking about unconditional love. It's funny because when we're talking about sort of the new moon in Aries and being embraced into the Aries season, moving off from Pisces and into the Aries season, what is sort of transpiring, like I said, is that bold and fiery. Well, if we have too much bold and fiery without something that, I want to say, supports it or absorbs some of it and coalesces with it, some of that bold and fiery, you can burn yourself out. So the unconditional love tends to be a little gentler. And so I feel this full moon for each of us, even though typically full moons can be a little bit cuckoo energetically, I'm feeling that this new moon, because of the pink energy, it's really going to be focusing on unconditional love. So this can go either way. Either you can feel very much in a space of love, and I love everyone, and it is unconditional. Like I said, the collective aspect of things is that we all need to make a decision about how we're moving forward, and we need to be responsible for what we're creating and co-creating in our lives and out in the world. There's also this energy of exploring it from an unconditional love perspective. On the flip side, some of you might be feeling obvious examples, reflections of where unconditional love is not there, where it's a conditional experience or a conditional exchange. And I'm not saying you got to judge it if you're noticing that it's coming from you, that you're conditional in your love, or that you're experiencing that from someone else. It's not a place to judge, it's a place to observe and to say, oh wow, what would change, or how would I change? How would I be affected if I approached this situation or this person or this transaction from an unconditional love space? And what does that actually mean? It means I respect you as a human being. I might not like you as a human being, but I love you as a human being because you and I are both choosing this wild journey that is full of ups and downs and chaos and change and shift and love and support and joy and all of those things. And we're all brave souls in many capacities for even entering into these bodies. So I feel that there's going to be a focus on what unconditional love really is for you in your life, where you're getting it, where you're not getting it, where you might want to adjust your approach, or recognizing, oh, you love conditionally, which is a reflection of some of your wounds, some of your hurts, where you didn't get love. And I don't need to play that game. I'm going to be the observer, but I'm also going to stand in my own unconditional love. And unconditional love doesn't mean doormat. Unconditional love means I accept that you have your journey and your path. And I appreciate that. And you go do you. And I have my own path. And I would appreciate it if you wouldn't interfere in my own path. And I'm going to go do me. So I feel that that's going to be a real energy, real topics coming up and coming through for all of us in the collective is around that unconditional love. I haven't even looked at the card yet for, okay, so this is our full moon. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent there. I'm like trying to figure out where that came from, what that was going on. Oh, pink moon. So that's what's going on. So our card is Three of Wands. So I think it's interesting that we had the Three of Coins, Two of Swords, and now we've got the Three of Wands. So there's a lot of this, I want to say it's not cluttered by multiples. We're at the beginning. And that's another thing that I think is so funny. You know, the Fool is a 0. It's pure potential. And then you've got, you know, in the cycle, if we think linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first half of any kind of growth cycle, you know, Phoenix cycle and transformation cycle, it's the beginning stages. You know, 1 is the idea, 2 is the plan, 3 is the creation, you know, starting to play with the plan. 4 is the foundation. 5 is, you know, some of the shifting and transforming to make sure that it is what it is. So we're here with the Three of Wands, and this is a card of expansion. So I feel like when we're talking about that unconditional love experience, what we're doing is we're expanding the heart space. And how interesting that in this card, Wands isn't orange and red and yellow and super flames. It's green. And we've been getting a lot of green. And, you know, green isn't represented as wands because coin is green here too in this card. And the swords are represented actually more like wands so far, the ones that we've pulled from. So again, heart-related stuff. We are expanding our heart space. You know, I love how these things come full circle, and I wonder, like, I do watch some of these videos for myself afterwards here and there, but I wonder what it would be like to watch some of this stuff in sequence after the fact. How much of, I want to say, a similar theme comes through. And I want to say the heart expansion has been coming through since almost the beginning of the year. I think it started to happen like third week of January that it started coming through with all of my readings, that this heart expansion, this is what's going on in the collective. So Three of Wands is reflecting that in the full moon, is saying, okay, unconditional love and awareness of that, observance of that, and I want to say connection to where you are at personally with that is helping you to expand your heart space. And Wands energy is our passion, our fire, our fuel, you know, the thing that gets us where we're going while we're sort of creating it. It's the spontaneous combustion of things. And so I feel that, you know, while the full moon is going to have a little bit of gentleness to it around that sort of unconditional love concept, there's still a lot of movement around it. So here's what I want to say. Some of you are going to feel very, very much like, oh yeah, I feel the unconditional love and I know who I can, you know, get that unconditional love from, and I feel it from me, you know, exuding from me, and oh, this is great. And then there are going to be others of you that are like, oh my God, like, am I the only person on the planet who loves unconditionally right now? Because everything that's being reflected back to me is the polar opposite. So, you know, we might be feeling a little bit of that, but just know that all of it is expanding the heart space. And that's the only thing that you need to be focused on, is what am I putting out there? What is my heart frequency putting out into the world? So our affirmation This is Moon Goddess Diana. I shine my light outwards for all to see. Oh my God, I just said that. So, and even look at her, like her arms are back. She is presenting her heart to the moon. She's presenting her heart to the world. So I shine my light outwards for all to see. Enough said. Mic drop. That's our focus for the full moon. Okay, now we are going to our Waning Gibbous. And the Waning Gibbous is happening. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the full moon is happening April 6th at 12:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are officially into April. And now the Waning Gibbous is April 10th. Wow, another sword. So we have 6 of Swords. And I love the 6 of Swords in Tarot because it is a card of support and grace. A lot of readers, talk about it as the, focusing on the exhaustion piece. I like to focus on it as like the hope. It's like the rainbow. It combines head and heart. Yes, it acknowledges the journey that you've taken, and it acknowledges that you might feel a bit exhausted from that journey. You might feel a little weary and that it's time for a rest, but I feel like that's what it is. This is saying, let's take the rest that you need and let me support you. Let me protect you in that. You don't have to do this alone. I always talk about going to the boat. You're on the tail end of a crazy long journey. You've stopped in and, had a little glass of wine or a mug of beer and a bit of bread and some soup. And you need a shower and you need to go to bed and sleep for 10 hours straight. And then you wake up and everything is a sort of a fresh new day. And you've got one more leg of the journey before you get to your hotel, and it's on the other side of the lake. And so you go to the end of the dock because someone told you, okay, this guy will take, Joe will take you across. And Joe takes one look at you and says, you know what? Yeah, you can rent my boat, but I'm going to do you one better. Why don't I just take you there so that you can sit? I can see that you're tired. Let me just, carry a bit of the burden for you and get you to the other side. And, tomorrow will be a new day. And, I'll point out some really fun things. So it's that energy of being supported. And so I really feel like that's kind of what's transpiring here in the Waning Gibbous energy when we're talking about April 10th, 11th, 12th, coming into the 13th. There's a lot of extra support, but you have to look for it. You have to have your eyes wide open for it. You have to communicate what you need. I feel like this is going to be a window of time where there may be some stress. There may be some mental stress, but also I want to say some energetic stress. Feeling drained, feeling exhausted, and not for the usual reasons, just all of a sudden recognizing, this growth has taken work. This new fiery, bold energy, I need a little bit of a pause. I need to breathe. This card and these days are going to provide that, but you have to be open to receiving that support and that guidance or that grace. So there's a lot of energy here, I feel, around being aware of who is around you, who is willing to help, and making sure you're communicating exactly what it is that you need. There's one thing to tell someone, I need help, and they can say, okay, well, from my perspective, this is what I'm seeing going on in your world, and so here's how I'm going to help you because I think that's going to be the best thing for you. But that might not be what you need. But that person isn't going to know unless you communicate. So it's one thing to take the step and say, I need help. It's the next step to say, I need help in this way, or I need help with this thing or this aspect. And for those of you who maybe are really in a tough spot and you're like, I need help and I don't know what I need, okay, then lean into that person and just be open to receiving whatever help they can provide. And through that process, you'll understand, okay, this gave me what I needed, or this didn't give me what I needed. And so but you will learn from that, okay, I didn't get this, so now I know I can ask for more of this. So understand that it's all a natural part of the process, and just be open to it, open to the help. If you're asking for help, be open to the help, but you can also be more clear about the type of help that you need. Okay, last quarter. So, am I doing this right? Yes, last quarter moon, April 13th. So I don't know why, but I'm feeling like this is going to be kind of a big deal time for the collective. Again, don't know exactly why, but I feel like there's something coming up around this time. There's something in the air. There's a shift. There's a changing wind. I don't want to even put a label on it as to whether it's good or bad or positive or negative. Just a real shift. And I feel like we're all going to feel it. So we'll find out what the card has to say around it. Oh, yeah. Okay. 5 of Wands. So check this out. We've got the apple, right? And the apple has some poison on it. So I want to say to you, without reading the 5 of Wands, I'll get into that specific in a second. But just looking at the energy of this, it's, what do they say? Fruit of the poison tree. Something that used to be really good for people that now is tainted. There's an energy of this in this last quarter, April 13th, 14th, 15th kind of energy, where you really want to pay attention to what you're signing on the dotted line to, what you're saying yes to, what you're committing to, what you're choosing in terms of your direction and your path. Do a double and even a triple take on everything, because I feel like there's something collectively that occurs or happens or is passed down that is not good for everyone. And I want to say for everyone. Most of the time I don't make those kinds of blanket statements because we're all as unique as the proverbial snowflake. We're all affected differently. This feels like it's really leaving a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I don't mean to get political here, but I'm going to use this as the analogy. When COVID came out and there was the mask mandate, and you've got a lot of people who are anti-mask, you've got a lot of people who are pro-mask, and then you've got the people in the middle who are just like, okay, like I'll use my own common sense or my own intuition to decide what is going to be best for me. But we don't like that the government is telling us what we can and cannot do. There's a shift in liberty there. There's a shift in freedom there, right? So again, not making it political, but this is kind of the energy of what I feel like is that somebody else's intention, somebody else's poison, somebody else's motivation sort of gets draped all over, the fruit of the tree, and it becomes a poisonous tree. So then what does everybody do? They can't go to the thing that they've always known or tried and true, the thing that has been healthy for them. They've got to look in a different direction. And so the 5 of Wands is scattered energy or focus, depending on how you look at it. Some people also read it as a sort of like people in training, being trained up for something. The 5 is transformation. The 5 is change, shift. So this, the last quarter, I feel, is going to bring about the winds shifting in the air, as I was saying before. And it's really going to be important that each of us take responsibility for our own decisions, regardless of what is mandated or passed down. Now, I'm not saying, break the law and cause a lot of trouble. We always want to consider, doing no harm, and, what's good for me may not be good for you. I'm just going to, do what I need to do for me. My intention is not to hurt anybody. So just throwing that out there, but there's definitely that energy of needing to look at, okay, I can't go where I used to go for the things that I need. And collectively, there's going to be a little bit of that energy. It might even have to do with some of the distribution stuff that we've been kind of dealing with off and on for some time now. All right, let's pull an affirmation card for this last quarter. Oh, this is pretty. I have power. It is real. It's a full moon. So the full moon's coming on the last quarter, which I think is so funny. I have power. It is real. So understand that when there's some scattered energy, when there's a question around what's really transpiring here, and how do I, what role do I want to play in it? I have power. It is real. So when somebody says we've poisoned, you didn't do what we wanted you to do, so we've poisoned the tree that you're all, able to get your stuff from, recognize that you don't have to feel disempowered as a result of that. You can find another way. You have power. It is real. All right, and finally we are at our Waning Crescent, and the Waning Crescent card is coming up on April 17th. And I feel like, well, it's going to be interesting to see what the card is that comes up after this Four of Wands energy and the collective things being sort of up and down, in and out, and then individually really connecting to your own power. I feel like with this Waning Crescent, there's going to be an energy of planning. You know, if you do have power and it's real and there's a lot of scattered energy, it's not throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. It's actually about being thoughtful. I come back to that King of Swords, being really thoughtful about what you're communicating, thoughtful about the plan. Oh, interesting. Okay, and we've got the Tower. So the Tower, I like to see, yes, it can indicate that there's a big event. And I have been feeling a big event coming up in April and May of this year, sort of a global event, catastrophic to a certain degree. I get a lot of water. I've been getting a lot of water for about like 8 months now around it, 9 months actually. But I don't know exactly what it is. And it could be 2 different episodes. Like it could be a natural disaster combined with sort of a human designed disaster. And I'm not trying to be gloom and doom here. Just the feelings of the energies. And, you know, as a collective, these are the things that we have to deal with. These are the things that we have to contend with. So I feel very much that the Tower around this time is indicating that a lot of us may be feeling that energy, that there is going to be something that sort of forces an issue. You know, I can't think of an exact example, but it's kind of, actually I can. So my computer has been doing all sorts of funky stuff. And financially right now, while I would love to spend the money to get my, MacBook Pro with all the bells and whistles, because this computer is now like 7 or 8 years old, it's the money's just not there right now. So it's kind of like I'm constantly sending it love, and I'm doing the things that I need to do to nurture it, and I'm making sure that I'm not overusing it, and I'm giving it a cooling off period and things of that nature to keep things going until such time as I'm whatever. The Tower example is where the universe is like, listen, we've been telling you for 2 years now you need a new computer, so now we're going to do something to the computer that basically pooches it, so you don't have the choice but to spend the money. So, and I hope I'm not being predictive here with this analogy for myself, but it's that kind of energy. That's what this feels like. So the universe is going to kind of come through and say, listen, we got to move you guys. We got to move you forward. You're too comfortable sitting still, or you're too comfortable in that uncomfortability, that we need to shift it up. And that shifting is going to be better for everybody in the long run, but it's getting you guys over the hump. It's getting you to budge. It's getting you to move. So there's a lot of that energy. And I feel like collectively, we're all going to be feeling it. And on an individual level, like, yes, we're feeling it collectively. I definitely feel there's something that's going to be brewing, that we're all going to be kind of like shock and awe. And how do we sort of move forward? Not necessarily in these days, but it's the precursor to it, like it's coming up. But then the question becomes, okay, how can I look at this differently? Why is this happening? Not why is this happening? It's, okay, why is this happening? Is it knocking something out of the collective that, we've known for years has not been good? And we just keep nursing it along, hoping that eventually something will shift. And we don't feel ready, but the universe is like, no, whether you're ready or not, you got to deal with it. You got to move forward. So on an individual level, I feel like it's important for each of us to really focus on the perspective. That's what's going to give us, I want to say, that clear movement forward. It's going to help to give us peace of mind and to not sit in the anxieties that can very easily come up with things of this nature. So that, as they say, is that. What a really powerful new moon cycle that we're going to be in. I'm very much looking forward to it, even though I know, towards the end, we do have some stuff that's coming up, but you know what? There's always stuff coming up, and all of it is designed to help us get to that I want to say, the true potential of who humanity can become. It is time, and it is our time. So don't get overly fixated on some of that, I want to say, heavier stuff or some of that dun dun dun. I don't mean dun dun dun. It's how can we best prepare? And that's what this is all about. How can we best prepare? So thank you guys so much for tuning in. That is our new moon musings for our new moon, November, March 21st, and bringing us into April, into Aries season. Enjoy the fire, enjoy the motivation, enjoy your spring, and we will see you next time. Take care.